sales is not that hard. If you have the client's best interest in mind, right, and you're able to stick to your ethics and your morals as far as advising them, then sales is really easy.
What's going on, guys? My name is Brad, and I'm joined with Brie Schmidt. She is the broker of Second City Real Estate up in Chicago. She started her career in 2011 as an investor and hasn't looked back. Currently, she has 96 units personally and helps investors all over the country find the perfect property for them to match their goals. Now, Brie, you started in corporate sales back in 2005. Take us back then. What brought you into real estate? Because now you got 5 businesses. Everything's booming. You have your own seminar. And where did it start?
I ask myself that question all the time, actually. Where did it start? It wasn't intentional. It really wasn't. I was never really intending to be an entrepreneur or be self-employed. I actually really loved my job in corporate. So I started working in advertising sales when I was 22 years old and was very, very good at my job. I got to travel all over the country, meet people. I had a corporate credit card and got to go out to really fancy dinners. It sounded awesome when you were in your early 20s. But fast forward 9 years, it gets really exhausting. When you're, flying. I said I used to fly in and out of DC just for one meeting, or, spending 9 hours in a plane just to do, 3 meetings in LA. So it really wears on you as I got older. But that wasn't why I got into real estate. I said the first property I bought was a 3-flat. So if you aren't familiar, it's a Chicago term that we use, and other people call it a triplex.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There we go.
For some reason, we call them flats here. So
that's very fancy, very like British.
It is very British. And no one else gets our lingo outside of the Chicago market, because to us, a duplex means a unit that takes up 2 floors. A duplex is not a building with 2 units.
Is that just how it's built in Chicago? Are they mostly levels, as in first floor is 1 unit, second floor, rather than side by
side.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it depends. So that's the interesting thing about real estate, and why I kind of love what I do, is because of what I do, I get to travel all over the country and speak at events, meet with other investors, and see other markets. And Chicago is quite a unique market, where it was built primarily between 1890 and 1910. And yeah, they're all stacked above each other. So they're stacked in flats, essentially. And the 3-flat, 4-flat, 2-flat is how many levels there are. And then we call duplexes is if the unit takes up more than 2 floors. So you could have a duplex down and then another unit, another unit. It's 4 finished floors, but we call that a 3-flat.
Okay, I'm confused already. But anyway, okay, if you're in Chicago, you get it. If not, then triplex, duplex, quad, you're good.
Yeah.
But back then, you were getting burnt out. And a lot of people right now are becoming realtors for some reason. Either it's the money, or they just see the opportunity to do something more exciting. What was it about getting into real estate that really drew you in?
Well, I was a bit opposite. So actually, I got licensed to be a realtor when I was 21 years old. It was I didn't go to college because I was going to be a realtor. That's what I wanted to do. And I quit my job within 9 months. I absolutely hated it. I found it very difficult for people to trust me when I was 21 years old. They're buying their first house. It's a really big purchase, probably the biggest purchase they'll ever make. And here's some 21-year-old girl telling them how to make their choices. And that was very difficult for me. Also, I didn't realize till I was older, but I don't communicate on an emotional level. So I was talking to them about, hey, this is a better cost per square footage. And they were talking to me about how it made them feel.
Right. And I'm totally the same boat. Yeah.
There was a huge disconnect in the ability to communicate. So I never thought I'd ever become a real estate agent again. I absolutely hated it. It wasn't until 2014 that I became an agent again. I had my license active all those years, and started working with investors, which is a different communication style, right? They don't care about feelings, right? To them, it's about the numbers, right? What makes sense logically. And I found I was very good at communicating and understanding their needs based on that level of interaction.
Right. You spoke their language. And I think that's where we're on the same page, because years ago, I got licensed in Tampa in a Keller Williams office under a residential agent to be her kind of protege. And she was She didn't work with investors at all. It was all about first-time home buyers and look at the landscaping and the pretty paint job and the crown molding. And I'm like, this is boring. This is stupid. But a lot of realtors get in on that side, which is great as long as you know that that's what you love. But when you are left-brained and you do see real estate as more of a vehicle and a business and an opportunity to create a lifestyle and just the X's and O's and the figures, you got to work with investors. You got to be on that commercial side. So that's a very big learning lesson for any new realtor, is just understand if you are more on the emotional side or more on the logical side, and go that route. Because if you're very emotional and you work with investors, it's not going to work out. And then the flip side. So,
yeah, most people don't understand that. They are two completely different worlds. You know, I never knew that working with investors was an option. Again, I was 21, so I didn't know a lot of things. But, you know, that wasn't something that crossed my mind. I just completely gave up on the industry, honestly. And now I meet with other agents who are just getting started in the business. And yeah, they have the same, I get calls all the time, you know, hey, I've been an agent for 9 months. I really don't like it. You know, it's not right. This isn't what I thought it was going to be, you know, and then trying to help them find the disconnect. You know, is their expectations wrong from the beginning, or are they just in the wrong side of the business?
let me ask you something. If you're getting started at 21 years old again, knowing what you know now, as in you don't have the knowledge, but just knowing the struggles, knowing what you'll have to do. If you're a brand new agent, what would you do? Because I know people are getting licensed now that are 21 and they say, I don't know anything. Why would a 35-year-old trust me to either for a rental property or for their first home when I'm so young and I don't have this experience?
So I still had a couple of sales when I was young, and I found that I was able to express my maturity verbally, and express, I did have a lot of knowledge in the industry. I'd actually started working for an agent when I was 17 and was her own licensed assistant. So I had 4 years of experience, but really you have to hammer home, that, and explain why you think the way that you do, and why your knowledge is important for them to understand. It's definitely going to be a hurdle, but I think that people are a lot more forgiving, let's say, for age these days. There are, there's 17-year-olds who own their own multi-million-dollar companies. Who are we to say that a 21-year-old doesn't have the knowledge to advise you on something?
It's almost the opposite now in certain fields, where if you're over 50 or so in something tech or something, you're just kind of like, all right, can I trust that you are with it? You're up to date with all those apps and software and technology? But yeah, absolutely. No matter what, either you rely on your broker's knowledge or your mentor or someone else, or you have to get that knowledge yourself. But let me ask you, with your corporate sales background going into real estate, what lessons did you learn from that arena that has helped you as a realtor and working with investors?
Oh, I learned a lot. I was actually extremely lucky. I said I didn't hate my job. I loved working at my corporate advertising job. And I was professionally trained by some of the best training programs in the world throughout my entire career. But to me, I mean, sales is a skill set, right? Sales is a personality. You can't go to college and learn sales. You either have that ability to communicate with people and to convince people, or you don't. That's my opinion about it. But even with sales, it's really about communication. I always laugh at, I remember when I first started, my boss used to record me because I'd always say, I'd always say, like, and he's like, you sound like an idiot. And so he used to record me and then make me listen to my calls. And it wasn't until he pointed out to me, like, I was the worst. I sounded like a valley girl. And I just said it too, I was like, but that sounds very unprofessional.
Right.
So I was trained to learn how to articulate, right, over my sales career. That was a big part of it. But really, I mean, sales is not that hard. If you have the client's best interest in mind, right, and you're able to stick to your ethics and your morals as far as advising them, then sales is really easy.
I think that's where sales gets a bad reputation, because you think of the bad sales experiences you've had, and you think of going to the car dealership and looking for a car, and it's just bait and switch. It's let me put you into this car. Let me take 3 hours of your time and wear you down and get your emotions going on a roller coaster ride. And it's you can tell that your best interest is not theirs. They want the sale, and it's more of a trick. It's more of a ploy rather than that long-term mentality of, you know what, let me see if I have the perfect vehicle for you or the perfect product or service. And if I don't, I'll happily refer you to someone else, knowing that you will tell 3 of your friends that you had a great experience with me, even though you didn't buy anything, and then they come. And then maybe the next vehicle is perfect, but it's a lot of that short-term mentality versus long-term that I guess get people in a lot of trouble, because if you want that quick buck, then that's when people get fooled. But if you're looking long-term, that's when you'll really succeed. And you do that by having morals and having the consumer's best interest at heart. Anything, go on.
Especially with investment agents, you have to understand, like, no client ever comes to me and says, I want to buy one property and then I'm done with investing. That's not how it works, right? They want to buy 4, 5, 6, 7 properties. They want to come to me and say, how can I work out my 10-year plan, right? And that's part of the job, is understanding, like, hey, we're putting together a chess game for you. And that also comes into play with, like, your lender, the people that you surround yourself with as far as business partners. You have to understand that these people aren't looking for one and done. So the more ethical and reliable you are on the front end, right, it comes back tenfold. I have clients who have bought, 3 properties from me in the last 3 years, and their friends have now bought properties from me, and it's all about the referrals. That's how your business is built.
Especially with investors, and you think a lot of money is at risk, you want to make sure you put it in the right person that knows what they're doing. And when you have a good friend that you see that they're saying, yeah, I've made a great investment with Brie and this property's going, I'm getting another one from her, and look at the numbers, it's okay. Word of mouth, that's huge right there. And the opposite is true too. I bought, she advised me to get this investment property. It is tanked. It's horrible. Stay away. Okay, that spreads like wildfire, especially now with Google reviews and social media.
Oh, of course.
Facebook. It's just do the right thing, play the long game, and you'll be fine. But a lot of people will have to learn that lesson the hard way.
And it's hard for new agents too, because with new agents, I mean, the statistics are something like 40% of agents don't make it past their first year. And I don't think that it's because they aren't good or that they aren't able to be good. The issue is compensation, right? People don't understand. It takes, 5, 6, 7 months to get your first serious client. And then you can't pressure them into buying a house right away. That might take another few months. So you're talking, 9, 12 months before you're even getting your first paycheck. And if you aren't financially equipped to handle that sort of long time period, then now what are you going to do, right? Your options are either find another job to make get a paycheck, or pressure someone into doing something just because you need the sale. And that becomes very difficult. Really, I tell people that are looking to get into this business, especially on the agent side, it took me about 3 years before I was able to have a full-time steady income from real estate. And even now, I started my company in 2014. It's been almost 5 years. There's time periods. Just last year, I went 7 months without a paycheck. Winter in Chicago is brutal. You've got to be prepared for that. I can't control when a good investment property comes in the market or not. Either the property numbers make sense or they don't. And you've got to be financially equipped to handle those sort of things, But I can go 7 months without a paycheck. I've made $70,000 in a month. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Yeah, there's ebbs and flows for sure. It's definitely not consistent. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge for new agents is getting over that hurdle.
So if you were to start again as an agent, because there's that mentality of burn the bridges, jump in, go full time, and give it your all, versus go part-time, do what you can, but you still want to have that income from another source so you're not in that position. Which way would you lean towards based on your own experience and what you've seen?
Part-time, hands down.
Part-time.
I would never, especially in the investment world. So understand, in the investment world, most of the agents that are looking to do this are looking to make investments themselves too, right? So if you're analyzing properties all day and something great comes up, you want the opportunity to be able to buy that. But understand how financing works is you have to have 2 years of agent income on your tax returns to use that income to qualify for a loan. So if you just quit your job and become an agent, and 6 months later, this great investment property comes up, you're not going to be able to buy it. So I always suggest keeping at least for the first year or two, keeping the full-time job and doing it part-time. Most clients look nights and weekends. That's the honest truth. If you can spend maybe an hour during your workday responding to some emails, or find someone that you can mentor with. That's what I do with one of my agents. Is he has a full-time job and he works with me nights and weekends, and then during the day I handle the business side of things. But then on the weekends, a lot of times there's too many properties for me to see by myself. So I need him to be there with me to go out with clients. That works out perfectly for us. But yeah, I would not suggest just quitting your job and doing it. But unless you have a year of income set aside, it can be very, very challenging.
So if you were to go back in the first 90 days of becoming a realtor, let's say someone's already done it. They got their license. They're like, oh crap, I burnt the bridges. I got, let's say 6 months of income, 8 months of income before I'm out on the streets. What would you do in the first 90 days, regardless if you're a residential realtor or an investment realtor, just to get as far ahead as possible?
So one of the things, a lot of the training programs at the large brokerage companies have you answering the phones, doing desk time, or sitting people's open houses. To me, that's what everyone else does. So why are you going to replicate what everyone else is trying to do? Kind of go out of bounds a bit. So meetup.com is actually a really fantastic website for networking events. At least in the Chicago market, we have over 40 different real estate networking events just for investors. That's not even including home buyer network. Get with lenders, right? You can set up, they do them all the time at bars. Hey, we're going to do a home buyer seminar. Go on social media, start branding yourself that way. There's other ways to do it besides just sitting at open houses or answering the phone at a real estate office.
But focus on other aspects of meeting potential clients with similar interests, or would you suggest creating your own meetup group or just attending those?
Anything, really. If you've got an independent voice, I have my own meetup group. We started it about 5.5 years ago. We've got just under 800 members that come that are involved in our group. And that was just through open networking. It's open invite, right? Everyone can come. And you get to meet some really interesting people, but a lot of our business comes from there. Is just referrals through that group as well.
So, okay, now this meetup group, is that part of your summit? Is that something that you promote your summit at, or is this tied together, or something completely different?
Something completely different.
Okay, because you got a lot of things going on. Just for clarity, you have almost 100 properties yourself. You have your brokerage. You work with clients. You have your website, or for turnkey properties, which, if you're not familiar, turnkeys are basically properties that are bought or rehabbed and either have a renter in there or will have a renter in there, and you don't have to do any of the work. It's just set up and you pay a bit of a premium for all the work being done for you, but usually they're very high cap rate properties. And so that's another business you have. How do you balance all this?
That's a great question. It's challenging. It's definitely challenging. And I only work 30 hours a week. So that makes it even more challenging. Because then I didn't become an investor to work 80 hours a week. In the first few years that I was doing this business, I was working a ton of hours. I would work until it was time to make dinner. I would make dinner. We would eat, real quick in front of the TV, watch an hour TV show. Then I'd go back to work. And, after a few years of that, well, why did I get in this in the first place? So luckily, though, I spent that time building things up, and then I was able to focus on how to systemize and process things so that I don't have to do everything, right? I can't be everything to everyone. So yeah, and then the summit that we have is a 2-day conference in June coming up. So it's a lot. Really, it's focusing on, one of the things I think I've done really well is understanding my skill set, right? I was actually just having this conversation with someone yesterday, especially with millennials. Right? We feel that we have to be everything to everyone, and the best at everything. And that's not true, right? I cannot be the best at everything. With my jobs or my companies, it requires multiple skill sets across multiple platforms. Like, I am not good at marketing. That is definitely not something I am good at. I am great at accounting and organization. So I take over those roles and I hire out the role that I don't do well, or that it takes me twice as long to do something because I don't understand it. So I think understanding who you are as a person and really focusing on that. So that's what my life has been the past probably 2 years, is how do I wake up every day and do the things that I like to do, the things that I'm good at, right? And how do I wake up every day and not have to do the things that I hate doing, and
Right.
outsourcing those.
You know, it's funny. I listen to a lot of Gary Vee. Are you familiar with
Yeah.
Gary Vee? Yeah. And he's so big in self-awareness and how he'll just use an analogy of a basketball and say his ROI on a basketball is zero. But LeBron James's ROI on a basketball is $1 billion. And having that self-awareness is what led me to understanding that I like investing in real estate, but not being a residential realtor, same as you, where you got in on the residential side, realizing you're very left brained and the numbers speak a lot louder to you than the crown molding and the picket fence and all that stuff. But give me a couple either apps or softwares or some sort of hacks that agents can use that have really that could really increase their productivity or just make balancing life a lot easier.
Sure. I mean, we use HubSpot for all of our CRM, which is great. So I have 4 agents that work for me. We all use HubSpot. It makes it a lot easier to communicate, especially with travel. So part of this, I said I travel 2 months out of the year. That's my goal in life, is to take 8 to 12 weeks off the year. So my agents need to know where I'm at with clients, what's the information while I'm gone. So that's one of the apps that we use is HubSpot. I also really like it because it takes everything from Gmail and automatically uploads it into HubSpot. So then other people can always see what my emails back and forth to clients are. Outside of that, really, it's just social media. Using Facebook, to promote the business, articles, those sort of things. On the investor side of things, another great website to use is biggerpockets.com.
Yeah,
It's a social network for real estate investors if you've never heard of it. Regardless if you want to be an agent or not, or even just learn very basic things about investing. There's literally 1 million investors on there who come every day to answer people's questions, and to get involved with the community. There's, networking events. You can find all that through Bigger Pockets. Those are really the 3 sources where I spend my time.
Yeah, I was gonna say Bigger Pockets. I love it because it's free. You could buy books, you can pay the membership service, but you get so much for free. It's not like you're getting pitched all these overpriced products or trainings. It is just amazing free information. And just the podcast, you go on there and listen to the podcast on your drive to work or to an open house, and you'll get some great information. Let me ask you, so from a realtor that is just getting into the investment side, what mistakes do you see realtors make when they're working with investors?
Well, you have to really understand what you're talking to them about, right? If you don't understand how to calculate a cap rate, right? If you don't understand what's the vacancy rate in your area, how much it costs to replace a hot water heater, right? These are all things that's the hard part about the investment side of the business, is you've got to know these things to be able to tell these clients. When I walk a property with a client, I'm presenting them with an analysis, not only of what I think the current rents are, but what I think future rents are, how much I think it's going to cost to get to those future rents, what sort of expenses that building is going to have over a 10-year period, and then present that to them so that they can make a decision whether or not to buy it. That takes a lot of knowledge, well above and beyond what a normal agent has. And people get, I think, frustrated with that. So one of the things that you could do, and how I suggest people get started if they want to learn to be an investment agent, is find an experienced investment agent and shadow them. That's how I train my people, is they shadow me for a year. They essentially become my assistant for a year. So they'll start, going on showings with me. They'll start just paying attention to what I'm saying. And then after a few months, I'll start letting them take over the talk. Right? I want them to point out what's wrong with the brick. I want them to point out when those furnaces need to be replaced. And then they'll start doing their own analysis, and I'll double check it. And then after a while, they're able to completely do their own analysis with clients, and I don't need to double check anything. But that's where you need to have that shadowing or that sort of hands-on approach to learn those things. When we take on new agents, all of our agents are required to be investors first. That's just how we're structured. But that's the thing. If you just got licensed, I would rather have someone who's been an investor, or a property manager, or has hands-on experience in that thing and just got licensed, because I can teach you the technical side of things. I can teach you how to write a contract, how to write an offer, those sort of things. but it's really hard for me to teach you to walk a property and know, hey, if you just painted these cabinets and then put in new countertops, it would cost you $2,000 and you can get $300 more a month in rent, right? Those are the things that you only learn through hands-on experience.
Right, the mentorship and transforming your mindset to think more like an investor and see opportunity in order to make a great investment. And also, as a new realtor, if you have a great mentor, whether it's on the residential side or the investment side, you can always lean on that mentor as instead of saying, I don't have all the experience, but I follow, this is what my mentor who has all these sales, all these accolades, everything is teaching me, but I have more time to spend with you. I think that's a good way to separate yourself from another realtor who is new and doesn't have a mentor and is just trying to rely on the bit of knowledge they have. I'd rather work with someone right under you or right under Gary Vee or right under Michael Jordan or whatever, knowing that they're getting trained by the best rather than, hey, I'm just doing my own thing. So that's just the best way to learn.
You're right, because investor clients on that side, the spectrum is very varied. Some already know exactly what they want. They want to run their own numbers. They already know how to do those things, and some need a lot of handholding, and they want to learn these things. So it could take 10 hours a week with a client. It could take 1 hour a week with a client. And being able, I can't spend 10 hours a week with every single client. It's just impossible for me to do that. But that's where other agents that are still in training come into play, and they have the capabilities to do that.
Let me ask you something. What's the biggest misconception about being an agent?
That it's very glamorous. It's actually a lot of hard work. I think also one of the biggest misconceptions is that all the work is getting the client under contract. That's the easiest part. I think a lot of the work comes once the property is under contract, getting it to close. So especially when you're dealing with apartment buildings, there's a lot more moving parts than just, hey, this is a pretty condo that I'm going to move into. So if the deal is going to fall apart, it's going to fall apart once we're under contract, and being able to navigate zoning, building issues, code issues, violation issues, title issues, all these things, renters, if they're not paying their lease, are they going to be evicted? These are all different components that come into rental real estate. That's where the problem really lies.
Gotcha. All right, to finish off this, because you've offered so much great information to new and current realtors, if you had a minute to talk to everyone in the U.S. that just got their license to become a realtor, what message would you give to them?
Stick with it. It can be very frustrating. You can go through times where you think that, you're spinning your wheels. It just takes time. You have to be patient, and it will come to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Brie Schmidt of Second City Real Estate up in Chicago. Definitely check the link below for information on her summit. Let's see, your other businesses, your turnkey business, obviously your real estate brokerage. If you're an investor looking for a property in Chicago or really anywhere in the U.S., she can hook you up. Any final words?
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for having us as well. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Millennials Guide to Real Estate. Click subscribe and ring that little bell. And until next time, see you later.